The next item on the agenda is panel discussion 2, smart technology and zero carbon buildings. The moderator for this panel is Tzu-Lun Ellen Lin, Deputy Executive Director, Office of Energy and Carbon Reduction, Premier's Office, Taiwan. I will now turn the program over to Mr. Lin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tzu-Lun Ellen Lin. It's the Office of Energy Carbon Reduction in the Premier's Office. Welcome to join the Net Zero City Leaders Summit. And now we move to the second panel entitled Using Smart Technology to Reach Zero Carbon Buildings. I think as you may know, according to the latest global stats report for buildings and construction published by UNEP in 2022, the building and construction sector accounting for around 37% of energy and process-related CO2 emissions, which is higher than the summation of industrial and transport industrial sectors. So this panel, we will hear city leaders around the world to share their strategy and action to achieve decarbonization in the building sector, especially how we can strengthen digitalization and integrate intelligent systems to reduce energy consumption and the carbon emissions. So without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Gorbel Kaprofronius, Deputy Mayor of Budapest, Hungary.
Thank you very much, and I am very happy to be here. I am Gábor Kaprofronius, Deputy Mayor of Budapest, which is the capital of Hungary and Central Europe. Our territory is 525 square kilometers, and we have a population of about 1.7 million people. And of course, we are also affected by climate change, and we also would like to use smart technologies and the smart city approach to handle this situation. We have, 2 years ago, adopted a climate vision. Sorry, can we move to the next slide? So by 2030, Budapest is prepared to manage the adverse effects of climate change, ensures the protection of its natural and built values, provides healthy, green, livable and attractive environment to people living or working in or visiting Budapest by improving energy efficiency, and sets an example for the country as a whole regarding sustainable use of energy and use of sustainable energy and its innovative and climate-conscious attitude. And the two key things, the two flagship projects are actually the use of solar energy and the refurbishment of residential buildings, which, as the leader of the panel just pointed out, is responsible in Budapest as well as at other places for 37% of CO2 emission. Next slide, please. So Hungary was trapped actually by cheap energy. We thought that gas and oil will always be cheap, so on a national level we did not pay that much attention to the transition to reusable energies. And of course, with the energy crisis and with our extreme dependence on Russian oil and gas, we are in a difficult position, so we have to have a very swift transition. And there are other reasons, for example, the increasing demand of electricity, and we have serious bottlenecks. And we consider that solar energy is the best escape route. Approximately 1,500 megawatt can be feasible by the use of generated from solar energy. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we introduced, and I would like to point out that we regard smart city as not only a technology-based, not only a gadget-based approach, but it also it is a very holistic approach, we also consider inclusion, social inclusion, participatory government to be the part of the smart city approach. So when we formulated our climate strategy was in fact using a method which we consider a part of the smart city, that is a citizens' council. So we actually consulted the inhabitants of Budapest what they see as viable solutions or the most present dangers of climate change and what solutions would they find acceptable in the city domains. And I think what we have to do is we have to try to give the possibility to people to transit. So what we developed was a solar map, which is we have made laser photographs of all the buildings in Budapest and combined that with the property register in order to aid inhabitants of the capital to see how much power can be generated on the rooftops of their building. Could we move to the next slide, please? And the second project that I am here to show is the Budapest Cares project, which is the climate agency for renovation of homes, which is a cooperation between the municipality, academia, and financial institutions in order to create pilot projects in different neighborhoods by examination of the construction status of the buildings there, the social composition of the inhabitants, and to find the appropriate financial tools that can help in refurbishing those homes to become much more energy efficient. And this is a project that is within the cadres of the 100 climate neutral and smart cities project, and is part of our Fit for 55. Next slide, please, and I'm over. So it's basically, I said everything from that. And thank you very much for having us here, and I'm very eager to learn from the experiences of all your different cities.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gabriel Karpel-Fronius. Next, let us welcome Deputy Mayor Rajni Chomchum from Chiang Mai, Thailand.
สวัสดีค่ะ Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First of all, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Rajni Chomchum, Deputy Mayor of Chiang Mai Municipality, Thailand. On behalf of Mayor Asani Buranupakorn, it is the great honor of the Chiang Mai Municipality delegation to be invited to the 2023 Smart City Summit and Expo, which provide us a valuable opportunity to share and learn with all participants the policy and practice about the management and development of our city in accordance with the concept of smart city. Chiang Mai Municipality is the local government that administers the area of 40 square kilometers with approximately 300,000 residents of Chiang Mai, the second largest city of Thailand, regarding the green solution concept for improving the life quality of our citizens. One among the most successful models is the revitalization of Mekha Canal, which was once known as the most polluted water resource in the city. Due to the direct drainage from households and community alongside, concerning that none of the projects could be success without the cooperation of the people. Especially the community Chiang Mai Municipality had improved the collective drainage system, wastewater station, and the overall environmental infrastructure for the canal, successfully with less than 1 year since the project started in June 2022. The smart communication approach by the continually discussion with the community members had allowed them to realize the environment and economic benefits from the improvement instead of the rigid law enforcement for relocation policy. Thanks to the cooperation of related architecture agency for the green designing of the growable bank for the backyard herbs and flowers, the communities sacrificed to cut off some part of their house. There was once override the canal. Nowadays, the villagers live happily alongside the odorous and beautiful canal, together with the opportunity to transform their dirty backyards to the house front shops that allow them to enjoy the lovely income gained from the visitor. Community members' heartfelt efforts in cleaning, decorating, and welcoming all visitors could help revitalize the canal without any express, whereas the development and cleanliness maintaining performed by the Chiang Mai municipality may cost more than 1 to 2 million baht annually. Unlike the former resistant phenomenon towards the government's development project, nowadays more and more communities have been expecting the visit of Chiang Mai municipality, like what used to happen at the first 750 meters pilot project of Mekha Canal. ขอบคุณค่ะ Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Chum Chum. Next, we would like to welcome Deputy Mayor Petra Korlar, Mikolov, Czech Republic.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank you for this opportunity that's been given to my town. And I also would like to thank you for the organizers to inviting to this beautiful country of Taiwan. It doesn't happen often that the representative of such a small town has an opportunity to speak on such a summit. I would like to use this opportunity to present you my town as a study case of what might be a situation for several cities of this size in the center of Europe. Next slide, please. And next. So this is basically what I call the heart of Europe. As you can see, the red bottom, the Mikulov town is situated on the border with Austria. And as a neighbor countries, we've got Germany, Poland, Slovakia, and Austria, which are all a big inspiration for us. Yeah, thank you. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so you can see the images of the surrounding countries. Next slide, please. Great. So to give you an idea, a little bit more precise, the city has 7,500 of inhabitants on an area of 45 kilometers square, and the nearest airports that are critical for us are all within 1 hour from the town, and there are the airports of Brno, Czech Republic, Vienna, Austria, and Bratislava, Slovakia. Next slide. And next. So these are the key characteristics of the town. The town has been built in the 12th century, and his main architectural characteristic is Baroque, which means 16th century. Our buildings are not 40 years old, they are rather 400 years old, which brings its challenges itself in terms of innovative buildings, energies, and so on. The neighborhood of the town is surrounded by a natural reserve, which has been also qualified as the UNESCO biosphere. So again, a very specific type of landscape that also needs a specific approach. And one of the economical key topics or motors is agriculture. Therefore, water and change of the climate is a big topic for us. Next two, please. Thank you. So all this brings tourism as the key topic for us, for not only today, but especially for the future, because we are heading now let's say, the peak of the problems that over-tourism can bring with itself. As I said, the city has 7,500 citizens, but the average visitors per year are about 200,000, which generates a lot of issues in terms of transport and waste. Next slide, please. Our vision is, of course, not only to preserve what the ancestors have built to us, but also to make it prosperous and preserve it as such for the future generations. So the quality of life of our residents and our visitors is key. When we think about this, and also listening to all your speeches, for us basically all topics are actual. And when we think about it, we really think about building a whole new infrastructure that would be in the sync with the cultural and natural heritage of my town. Next slide, please. And next, yeah. So today for me, I had the opportunity in the morning to talk to many of the presentators and also hearing your speeches. The key for us, because we are such a small town, is to find strong partners. Partners that will help us to implement the solutions that would fit to the specific characteristic of my town. At the end, I would like to thank you. Maybe next slide. I would like to thank you again for this opportunity to be here, and I would like to add the quote that the Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies of my country, Markéta Pekarová-Adamová, said earlier today, that Taiwan and Czech Republic are bound together by freedom and democracy. So thank you again.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kolar. For the next presentation, we would like to welcome Mayor Matt Burnett, Gladstone City, Australia.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I realise it's been a long afternoon, and I have 5 minutes to speak. So what I'm going to do is just borrow a few seconds of my 5 minutes, if you'd like, to stand up and stretch a bit, because I have been sitting for 2 hours like you, so feel free to get up and join me, but if you're comfortable in your seats, by all means, stay there. This is my hometown on the screen there, that's Gladstone. For the first 2 slides, and I only have 8 slides, so we'll get through this really quickly. For the first 2 slides, we can move straight on to the next one. You can hear a little bit about Gladstone. This is in the centre of the coast of central Queensland in Australia. That's where I was born. My family's been there 6 generations. I've been on the local council for 23 years. Now, so I don't get in trouble by the organisers, I'll sit down, but by all means, keep stretching. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Before I speak about our economic profile, the traditional owners in the Gladstone region, we have 4 traditional owner groups, and they are the Gurang, the Gurang-Gurang, the Baili and the Trebalang Bunda people, and I will pay my respects to elders past and present. This is what our tradition we do in the Gladstone region. So here it is. This is a bit of an economic profile of the Gladstone region, $5.5 billion in gross economic product. We have a lot of our jobs in manufacturing. It's 14.4%, 11.9% in construction, and other jobs there as well. We're a very young community in terms of about 36.8 is the average age, which is younger than the youngest in a Queensland town as well. And I acknowledge my fellow mayors and deputy mayors here from Queensland as well and across Australia. Let's move to the next slide, because this is what it's all about. My community is transitioning. So it's a little bit off topic, but we are building towards a net zero economy in the Gladstone region, a net zero community. We are the most industrialised city in the state of Queensland, probably one of the most industrialised cities in the whole of Australia. But our competitive advantages as to why we are so successful in terms of industry is those on the list there. Our deep natural port. We are the port city to the world, and that's what brings the industry to our local community. We are strategically located in central Queensland, surrounded by natural resources as well, as you can see, and an amazing state development area, 16,800 hectares, designated state development area, which means major industry can set up without having to go through all the rigmarole and other stuff that local councils sometimes get involved in. It's designated set up for major industry to establish, and that's what's made our city so successful in terms of industrial development. And I'll talk about a few of our major industries in a second. We're also located in the Central Queensland Renewable Energy Zone. So much of our local industry is heavy emitters of CO2, which is another reason why people around Australia and around the world, particularly in Asia, are looking in at Gladstone to invest in terms of renewable energy. Let's move to the next slide. So these are our industries. We have 3 LNG industries in Gladstone, 2 alumina refineries and an aluminium smelter. Those 3 alone are in the top 5 users of energy in the state, along with Cement Australia, the largest cement production facility in the country at the moment, can expand by 3 times that amount and will do when a new economy comes to Gladstone. Those industries there, as well as the others down the bottom that I haven't mentioned, are major users of power. And so they're going to need to transition to a net zero economy, and they're going to do that. Let's move to the next slide. So this is our hub. This is what's happening in Gladstone. This is how we're transitioning. So of those industries I was talking about before, Rio Tinto, most people in this room will have heard of Rio Tinto. Their largest asset base anywhere in the world is in Gladstone. They are 50% of their global emissions come from Gladstone. Now, what that means is they have to transition away from a heavy carbon economy, and that is what they're doing. They're investing $1 billion globally over the next 5 years to deliver their climate change targets. So they're not closing down their industries in Gladstone, they're actually investing in them and creating support from other companies around the world. Sumitomo was partnering with Rio Tinto, with one of their alumina refineries, to inject hydrogen into their processes so that they can actually reduce their carbon emissions. And this is only the beginning of what they're doing. I have 1 minute left. That is a little basic bit about our ecosystem there, about how we're making our hydrogen economy happen in our community, starting with domestic, starting with commercial, and then eventually exporting that right around the world. I'm running out of time, so let's move to the next slide. The Gladstone region, we created a transition roadmap. So we know that we've been through the boom of 3 LNG industries came to our community, and we know what it's like to have major industry move into our community as well. And what we've said is, we said this time round we're going to make sure that our community benefits from this transition that is happening. Those major players use a lot of power. They are major emitters, and what they want to do is transition into a net zero economy so they can continue to be successful in the future. And what we're seeing is a massive change in our ecosystem in terms of the industry. It's pretty exciting stuff. So much more is coming to our community, and I've got a whole bunch of people over there that can talk to you from Gladstone. We brought 4 people from Gladstone because this is a very important topic for us. As I said, Rio Tinto's largest asset base in the world, 50% of their global emissions. They're not walking away from that. I think I might have one more slide, but that's probably just telling you about our roadmap. And this is too hard for you to read on the screen at this time in the afternoon. My time's up, but let me just tell you quickly what our renewable energy projects are. We have 8 renewable hydrogen projects, including green chemical plants, 1 under construction, Fortescue Future Industries. We have 2 pumped hydro projects, 4 solar projects, 2 biorefinery projects, Alpha HPA high purity alumina project, 6 wind farms and a number of solar proponents. Gladstone is going to be the epicentre of renewable energy in Queensland and in Australia. We are going to be a global superpower in hydrogen. You need to find out more about it if you're interested. Come and see me or anyone from the team in Gladstone, and enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you for inviting us. Cheers.
Thank you, Mayor Burnett. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. For the next presentation, we would like to welcome Mayor Frederick Sao, LGU Iligan, Philippines.
Good afternoon, everyone. My presentation is all about setting a new direction in governance leading to the Iligan City's dream to become a smart and zero net city in southern Philippines. We are just 8 months in office. From the start, after putting in place our strategic plan for the city, we have crafted a strategic plan leading to the making Iligan City as a smart industriopolis in southern Philippines. We are a small city with a lot of societal problems, but we are committed and forward-looking in addressing the targets of the UN SDGs. One direction that we are committed is innovation, which comes from the two local words, ilig, which means to go up, and iligon, which means to strengthen, plus the word innovation. Three concepts combined, we call innovation. It is an initiative at creating and strengthening livable city townships and abide with the UN SDGs. As a new local leader, what we have done is to start it right and educate our constituents and stakeholders to be conscious of the goals of the UN SDG and Net Zero City. We need the help of everyone for us to succeed despite being new in the local government. The creation of the Center for Digital Economy, Innovation and Sustainability in the Innovation District is significant for several reasons. The center serves as a hub for training and education, particularly on smart and zero-net cities, providing resources and support for individuals and organizations seeking to develop their skills and capabilities in the smart and zero-net economy. The creation of the Iligan City Innovation and Creative Industry Council is a coordinating body among stakeholders, bringing together key players in the city's technology and creative sectors, including businesses, academic institutions, and government agencies, to collaborate on initiatives and share knowledge and resources. The Iligan City Development Goals, or IDGs, is a product of consultations across various sectors in the city, identifying major societal problems that require developmental interventions. The process involves stakeholders from the government, the civil society, private sector, and the academe, among others, and aim to laymanize the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to the local context. We are one of the very few cities in the Philippines who put the UN SDG as a political promise during the last elections. The Innovation District is designed as a township program to bring together these diverse industries, including ICT, agriculture, manufacturing, digital investments, education, governance, and tourism to create a synergistic ecosystem that will spur social economic growth following the 5 components: smart mobility, sustainable buildings, renewable energy, tech innovation, and smart governance. We are far from what the advanced countries are doing, but our local experience and our goal for smart and zero-net city will definitely change the landscape from the traditional governance model to a more adaptive smart city-enabled development direction. The Budima Tourism Innovation District is a famous tourism hub featuring our famous waterfalls and economic tourism resorts. Our city is branded as the waterfalls capital of the Philippines. Tourism is an important contributor to the district's growth, and it creates jobs and generate revenues, which also promoting the region's cultural and natural heritage. This is where we value mangrove rehabilitation as the main carbon sequester, at the same time a tourist destination. This is where we focus our net zero campaign for solid waste and our green thumb campaign. Another potential is harnessing the growth of the agricultural sector. We call this the Rogongon Tikilaan Agriculture Innovation District to ensure food security and at the same time strengthen sustainable income among the farmers. The Kiwalan, Dalipuga Manufacturing Innovation District provides access to cutting-edge research, talent, and technology. Innovation districts can attract entrepreneurs, startups, and investors who are looking to develop innovative solutions and products for net zero environment. The focus of Artibanga Digital and Educational Innovation District is focused on our partnership with the academe, the Mindanao State University, Iligan Institute of Technology with all its academic departments and the local government offices. By strengthening the partnership with the academe, we can strengthen our advocacy for education and training and build the skills and capacity of local residents to appreciate UN SDGs and the advocacy on a net zero city. This may be hard, but we are determined. Iligan City is fortunate to be identified by the national government agencies and its national programs and policies. The Department of Information and Communications Technology has identified Iligan as the most proactive digital cities 2025 and continues the legacy of the next wave cities. As of date, Iligan is branded as the digital freelance workers capital of the Philippines, composed of almost 15,000 remote workers. Also, our cultural workers under the Creative Industry Development Councils are already working with the application of the city to be included in the UNESCO Creative Cities Network. The Department of Science and Technology has identified Iligan City as part of the Smart and Sustainable Cities project. This office further encourages our city to be smarter and net zero. Iligan Innovation values not just digital and technological, but on social innovation and stakeholders' engagement as key components of its development, which is also needs-based and people-centered. By prioritizing social innovation and stakeholder engagement, the goal to transform Iligan as a smart and net zero is within our hands. Focus on low-lying fruits. Altogether, we say, in our Filipino language, we say, Ascenso Iliganon, onward to sustainable development, Iligan City. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Sel, for joining us this afternoon. For the next presentation, we would like to welcome Deputy Mayor Michał Stable, Bydgoszcz, Poland.
Good afternoon. I come from Bydgoszcz city center in Poland. First, I'm sorry for my English, but it's still better probably than Mandarin language. Next slide, please. Of course, our goal is net zero, but first I introduce about my city. Bydgoszcz metropolitan area. In Bydgoszcz metropolitan area live over 600 people. Please, next slide. Bydgoszcz is well connected with main expressways and motorways and railroads. And of course, in our city is airport too. Please, next slide. Two significant economic sectors are IT, telecommunication, electronics and electrical engineering sectors, and tool making and plastic processing industry. Please, next slide. But of course, in way to zero emission, so important is upgrading existing building. Of course, with activities are reconstruction of internal installations, including replacement of all lighting points, installation of photovoltaic panels, or installation of heat pump. Of course, include. In last 6 years, we upgraded 30 buildings, and now we have 7 buildings in progress, and 70 buildings are to be modernized in program public-private partnership. And next slide, please. For example, it's before and after. Important information is average annual reduction in energy demand, heating and electricity is near to 60% reduction in energy, average of 30 building. And estimate annual reduction in gas emission is 6,400 tons dioxide equivalent for a year. Next slide, please. Of course, important are new buildings. Last we built animal shelter, full new zero emission built with 70 photovoltaic panels and 3 modern heat pumps, made the building completely energy self-efficient. And now we are progressing help center for homeless men with 4 buildings and with full net zero emission. Next slide, please. The largest photovoltaic investment in the city is Astoria Leisure Center. And total on the buildings, we have 1.2 megawatt energy. And in preparation ground, we are in progress 40 megawatt. Next slide, please. In our activities, the most important is robotization. It's mean managing parameters in contracts with energy suppliers and adapting them to the volume of consumption. And monitoring, for example, whatever the contracted power of electric energy and other parameters, for example, reactive, inductive, and capacitive powers have been excited. Access to citywide information in order to take action, install devices, for example, compensators to eliminate exceedances, and thus the need to cover additional fees. Monitoring energy consumption, invoices, data collection, and analysis has a prime goal, to keep electricity charges for the city budget as low as possible. Next slide, please. Thank you for your time, and it's an honor to be here. Of course, I invite all with us to Bydgoszcz, Polish Amsterdam. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Stiebel. Our next speaker is County Executive Mark Elridge, Montgomery in Maryland, United States.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. This is my first conference, my first time in Asia, and this has been an amazing city to be welcomed in. And I came looking for information and to see what other people were doing, and it has not disappointed in my couple of days here. So I'm very excited about this. Montgomery County, where I live, is a town of, not a town, it's a county of a little over 1 million people. We are 516 square miles. We have 94,000 acres that have been put aside in an agricultural reserve. So there's very little population in there. But we don't have anything like a large city in Montgomery County. Nothing big was built really until after 1960. So we've had this remarkable growth after 1960. And so it's very different listening to people talk about cities that have been around for hundreds of years. So our situation is we're on a regional power grid, and it's almost entirely dirty, and that which isn't dirty is nuclear, which I think is dirty. So we have a grid which is not helpful to us. The other 2 major sectors of pollution come out of the automobiles, as we know, and buildings, and I do believe that automobiles will take care of themselves because of the innovations in the automobile industry. There's a path forward there that makes sense. Buildings are really the hard nut to crack, as well as the power grid, because the county controls no inputs into the power grid. So everything we do, everything that happens with the grid depends on the state. So when we look at buildings, we've done a number of things. First, we created, in 2017, we declared a climate emergency. And we set our greenhouse gas goals at reducing them by 80% by 2027 and to 0 by 2035. When we did this, we actually had no idea how we were going to get there, nor did anybody else. But we knew if we set more modest goals, we might achieve them, but the modest goals wouldn't get us where we needed to go. We need to get to zero as soon as possible. So we set a very difficult target. But I will say I'm more optimistic about getting to the 2035 target than I was when we actually passed the legislation. So we've recently, when we started the climate plan, we put together a couple hundred citizens. We had them do research for us, kind of map out a way forward. Then we brought in a consulting group to prioritize and price some of the key elements of that. Last year, the council passed building energy performance standards. So new buildings have to meet very high standards. They have to basically go to net zero. Old buildings, if they do major renovations, they have to begin to approach the new standards. So we've got different standards for what's on the ground today, but also what gets built is going to have to be clean. We will be getting rid of everything but electricity, so natural gas will not be usable in the county in new buildings. That's where we're going with this. One of the things we find with tall buildings is very hard to get solar on top of the buildings, which means if you're looking to solarize or get alternative energy in a built environment, then all of our use is either in office buildings or residential buildings. We have no industry in Montgomery County other than being a life science hub, which can be very energy intensive, but there are no factories there. So our use is entirely in buildings that are either used for offices, used for AI or life sciences or residential buildings. So our avenues to cleaning that up are a little bit more limited. The taller they are, the harder it is to get solar on. One of the interesting things I've come here looking for, and I saw downstairs, is solar glass that can be put into windows. So you can use the vertical surfaces of a building instead of the horizontal top of a building in order to generate solar. And you have an exhibit downstairs of a company which is producing solar glass that actually also can collect the light energy from the interior of a building as if it were on these walls here, could actually generate electricity from light that's being generated in this room. So you look at those kind of things and you can see that there are going to be paths forward, but there's no clear path to everything that we do. But we think our standards are going to be really, really important. We've adopted the International Green Building Code, and we're about to do an update so that that code will adopt the latest version of the code that makes our buildings cleaner and more and improves our energy performance. We're looking at, we use smart grids. We've been able to do, we have the largest public bus charging station in the country on an electrical grid. All of the school buses, which is like 1,000 school buses, are going to be transforming themselves to electric over the next decade. My bus fleet will either be electric for public transportation or it'll be hydrogen, and the electric will run the shorter routes, hydrogen will run the longer routes. We receive money from the federal government to get a device to reform natural gas into hydrogen to produce fuel for our buses. We're putting 6.2 megawatts on a landfill where we have access to water, and they're going to use that to produce hydrogen for us, and we're going to take our food and put it in composting and digestion so we can produce more hydrogen. Multiple ways forward, but an interesting journey, and thank you all for everything you've done to put this together.
Thank you, Mr. Elrich, for joining us. And our next speaker will be Deputy Mayor Bartosz Bartoszewicz, Gdynia, Poland.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a big pleasure for me to be here. And first, I'd like to thank the city of Taipei and people of Taiwan for inviting us and giving us this opportunity to exchange our knowledge and experience. Next slide, please. My name is Bartosz Bartoszewicz, and I'm formally, as it's written in the local act of law, I'm responsible for quality of life. So for the last years, I've been working on increasing the quality of life in the city I live in. And actually, I'm convinced that these are 5 areas. First area is citizens. So we have to be citizens-focused city. So every solution we're implementing, we should think about our citizens. Secondly, it's of course economy. We want to fight with poverty. We want to fight with unemployment. It's a really important activity of the city. Third, it's governance. So the way we're making decisions, we're inviting our citizens to the process of decision making. On the fourth place, it's mobility as we all move from place to place, so it's really important. So it's on the good quality, it's safe, and it's efficient. And the fifth area of activity of a city, which is extremely important if you want to increase the quality of life, is environment. And what is the topic of this panel refers, of course, to environment, but what we have to think is that it's not about increasing the quality of our environment. We have to do our best so the next generation will have same conditions as we have right now. So this is something that we have to focus on. And let me very shortly tell about our implementations that we have in the city of Gdynia. Next slide, please. We should think about, we should talk about the buildings, but what I think is extremely important. We're the first city that we are counting carbon footprint, but actually 80%, and I think this is a great result, according to research done in Europe, 80% of people living in Europe, they declare the knowledge that the climate is changing. But in the same time, almost 50% of those people, they blame the governments, they blame the companies, corporates, and they don't exactly know what they can do in their daily life to change the climate, to work on the environment. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to invite our citizens to the discussion. What is the carbon footprint? What they can do on the daily life so they can increase their result. Of course, we want to check how we are changing every year, but counting carbon footprint, it's more about inviting citizens to the discussion about the climate. Next slide, please. We're really focusing on transportation system. I will just very briefly say about something that was launched 3 weeks ago. We have our city app, and there are a lot of services in this city app. Of course, we have some information. We have about education. You can plan the trip by city app. You can check the news, you can check the climate, you can check the air quality, but we also integrate all transport services and sharing services in the city app. What was mentioned here by the first keynote speaker, it's about avoiding cars. If you don't have to go by car, it's great, change it, you can choose something else. But I think what is also great is if you don't have to buy a car, don't buy it. Just use the local transportation. So it's really, really important from our side. Next slide, please. We're investing a lot of budget in the eco-transportation. It's safe, it's efficient, it's nice looking, it's comfortable. But what is the most important is climate-friendly transportation. Next slide, please. And regarding the buildings. What we do every year, we do heat loss maps, and this is something that we are trying to offer every owner of the property in the city, so they can have a look, it's free of charge, and they can decide if an investment is needed there. And it's done every year. Of course, we are also, apart from that, we are also collecting the data about energy consumption in every single municipal building, because there is maybe something that we can do in terms of our building. Next slide, please. We also, and this is for the last, we have implemented that 3 years ago. Every single investment we have in the city, we are thinking if it's friendly in 3 different areas. First, and it was done many years ago, if it's friendly and if it's friendly for people with disabilities. This is first area we've been thinking all the time, if it's a good investment. Secondly, if it's if it's family friendly. So if we have an investment, is it okay for the families? There is something we can do so we can support the families. And for the last 3 years, we add the third part, which is climate. So everything what is done in the city, there is a special team of employees involved in this process. They are thinking if this investment is climate friendly. Next slide, please. This is a sample of new building. It's just being built right now. This is a sport gym, one of the school. And I have to mention that from our perspective, building a new building is very easy. It requires the budget, but there are a lot of technologies we can use while we're building a new building. Next slide, please. But what is really big challenge for us, there are a lot of buildings that were built during the Soviet influence, so there was nothing like energy efficiency. So there are a lot of buildings we have to work on. We have to implement new solutions, try to replace something, and it's much bigger challenge than building a new ones. And the last slide, please. Thank you for your attention. There will be more questions. I'll be happy to answer them. And once again, thank you for inviting us and giving this chance to exchange our knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bartoszewicz. The next speaker will be Deputy Mayor Ligia de Freitas, Newark, United States.
Good afternoon. Well, I don't know if it's good afternoon, good morning. I just got here at 5 o'clock in the morning after being since Sunday traveling. So, North Carolina is doing like this, yes. So, Newark, before that, I talk a little bit about our, internet. Newark is a very old city, over 300 years, the largest city in Newark, a melting pot. And the result is me with my funny accent, as a deputy mayor. So we have a diversity of all type of nationality. I call Newark is United Nations represented. And it has the top 10, largest airport in the United States. So means we are negotiated, dealing with all the fuel and the carbon coming, from the larger, the top 10 larger, airport in Newark, in the United States. Another thing we did in the past 3 years is we changed over 23,000 lead pipes to get a better water for our population. And that was a few other, right now we are doing the solar panels for homes free with the taxes incentive. And the electric gas company, the PSNG, is the only in the city. It's planned to reduce the carbon emissions 80% by 2046 and net zero climate by 2030. The next slide, please. So we start to work with the broadband pioneer. The city in Newark is, we was with issue, about internet, technology, being consideration, like I say, is the older city, one of the older city in the United States, not just in buildings, but in everything. So, next slide, please. Newark households is 28% don't have it. Internet, 56 have a in-home broad connection, and 13% have only a cellular plan. Next, please. The Newark fiber network. So what we deliver is what we call it the Newark, the dark area fiber, 24 miles fiber, 71 buildings, and all the recreation centers in every ward. We cover that. Next slide, please. In 2026, as you can see, we created Invest in Newark, and on August 3rd, 2016, the Newark Municipal Council adopted an ordinance authorizing a lease agreement to the Invest in Newark unused portion on the city data. The ordinance also directly impacted the decision of many largest business to locate or relocate office and create 1,000 jobs in Newark. Next slide, please. The Mayor Ras Baraka has made a priority to connect every home with a free, low-cost, high-speed internet, and we achieve it by doing three things: promoting and adopting the Federal Affordable Connection Program, leverage Newark fiber and city real estate and spending access to residents, and rebuilding Newark fiber to expanding capacity citywide. Next slide. The federal government Affordable Connection Program provided $30 subsidized to eligible householders for internet access. In Newark, over 60% householders are eligible, but only 30% of those eligibles have adopted these programs. So we're still working very hard, as you can see on that. The city is working to promote the program to increase adoption, increase access, and create savings to the residents. Next slide, please. The next city hope to launch a new program called Newark Fiber Now to leverage Newark Fiber city buildings to connect surrounding neighborhoods and allow the city to utilize the existing infrastructure without incurring large cost. Next slide. The federal infrastructure invested and the Jobs Act dedicated $65 billion for broadband investment. So we're still working on that, and Newark plans to apply those funds to rebuild and expand the Newark Fiber, Newark, and ensure building the next future. Next slide. In addition to the broad access, the Newark Fiber Newark also support the public safety, the municipal office, Newark Housing Authority, the traffic signals, and Newark Fiber's customers include large companies like Prudential to small business like restaurants, law firms, and retail shops. The network also supports public Wi-Fi access and the link kiosks, in addition to the air quality monitoring and the public safety equipment. So as you can see, we're still working on our internet connections, and on parallel, we're working with free panels in the houses and our water quality, and working with the airport with the air quality. And we hope by the next time we do our presentation, we're going to be with better news about City Newark. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor De Freitas. Our next speaker will be Deputy Mayor Thomas Van Opens, Leuven, Belgium.
We here cannot reach net zero. Next. Next. Welcome to Leuven. Leuven is a city of about 100,000 inhabitants in Belgium, close to Brussels. If you don't know Leuven, then you will maybe know KU Leuven, or maybe you will know Stella Artois, which is brewed there, or if you're in the semiconductor sector, you might know IMEC, which is an R&D center in our city that sets the standards for semiconductors. Next. So I said that we here cannot reach that. And what I mean by that is that we as politicians, as policymakers, cannot reach that alone. We need everyone involved to participate. That's why in Leuven, we said, okay, we're going to set up a non-profit organization in which not only the city is represented, but also companies, research institutes, schools, companies, citizens, everyone is able to join if, of course, they set goals for themselves and that they adhere to the goals that we set. This made it possible to do a lot more, a lot faster. And I'm going to show you 3 things that we were able to do that are very concrete and that I think are very interesting. Next. Renewable energy. We are not an industrial city. We have no industrial sites. We have no natural resources. So what can we do to provide renewable energy? Of course, solar panels, but everybody does that. But the large silo that you see at the right picture, it's actually a fermentation site. What we do is that we collect biodegradable materials from citizens at home, from restaurants, from companies, from everywhere. And we've combined with the right bacteria, it can ferment in the large silo. And this provides electricity for 3,000 families. And in the near future, it will provide heating for 500 homes. Next. Renovation of buildings. the largest part of CO2 emissions is actually buildings that are old and consume a lot of energy. But of course, rebuilding buildings also consumes a lot of energy. 40% of the CO2 emissions in my country stem from the building of buildings. But also 30% of all the waste in my country comes from the renovation or the destruction of buildings. So there was a logical solution to this. Next, we made a materials bank, a bit like Credit Suisse, but it won't fall, and it handles in materials instead of in money. What it does is it looks for materials that can be reused from sites that will be demolished and sees if it can be used in other sites that will be constructed. This means that there has been a savings of about 100 tons of materials only last year only, and we are about to reach 200 tons this year. So we are about to double it every year, actually. Next. And finally, I want to tell you something about the modal shift. Another big part of CO2 emissions, and of course about local pollution, is the exhaust of cars. And I know that electric cars can do a lot, but it won't solve traffic issues. And if we don't solve these traffic issues, then we will literally get stuck. So what did we do? And this is also a Smart City Conference. Next, we involved our citizens. We had a part in Leuven where we wanted to have less cars and less cars that moved through residential areas. Next. And so what did we do? Next, we gave our citizens this. This is what we call a counting window, telraam. And it's actually an AI camera that counts how many cars, how many trucks, how many bicycles pass by. This allowed us to make a map of the area, next, that has data for every street, next, and that shows each street and the traffic intensity. This allowed us then again to make a model that says what happens when we lower the speed limit, what happens when we cut a street in half that you can't pass anymore, what happens if we make it a one-way direction. Next, please. And it allows us to come up with a plan that we could show to citizens that says, hey, our model shows that we are going to decrease the traffic in your area. It removed resistance to these measures because everybody wants to have less traffic in their area. But everybody is scared of change. But this showed black and white that this change is nothing to be afraid of and actually improved the livability of the neighborhood. Next. And eventually, it led to more cyclists. The city center now has more cyclists than cars, actually, at this time. Next. And this is what I want to end with. We have to go further and further. We need to be taking a step from doing what is possible to doing what is necessary, and I hope we can do that together, and that's why I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thomas van Opens. For the next presentation, we're very honored to have Minister Oscar Requena with us from the Ministry of Local Government, Belize.
Thank you very much. A very pleasant good afternoon, Your Excellencies, and everyone who's present here this afternoon. I want to start off by thanking our host, the beautiful people of Taipei here in Taiwan, and the government, as well as the mayor. We certainly appreciate your invitation, and we're happy to be here in this beautiful, clean, green city. And we have also observed that it's quite walkable. A lot of people are walking, and that's very, very good. I want to start off by saying that our presentation focuses on smart technology and zero carbon initiatives. Next slide. Just to give you some background information, Belize is situated in Central America, and whilst we are considered a Central American country, we're also a bridge to CARICOM. Our population is approximately 390,000, our urban population 192,000, and our largest commercial center is about 67,000 in population, and it is also a low-lying coastal city, highly vulnerable to climate change. Next slide. Our nationally determined contributions to low-carbon development strategy is building technical capacity, strengthening institutions and policies, facilitating public-private partnerships, engaging our stakeholders, and adopting sustainable practices. Our mitigation targets and actions is to deploy 77 hybrid electric public transit buses by 2030, We also want to, for adaptation targets and actions, by 2023, we want to pilot our early warning system for storm surges in one coastal district and to develop a national monitoring system and coastal response plan for storm surges and flooding. Next slide. We're also looking at, how do we promote zero carbon smart cities? Our policy position includes enhanced citizen mobility and walkability, enhanced citizen engagement, improved service delivery, enhanced citizen security and safety, and our climate resilient infrastructure. Next slide, please. And here we have a few examples of how we are using technology for the management of public spaces. We have our parking meters, which is a pilot project. Next slide. We are also using it to manage traffic in our larger urban centers. Next slide. We're also, as I said earlier, we're focusing on e-transit buses and electrical vehicles. I want to say that just recently we have established several charging stations as we move forward to implementing e-transit buses on electric vehicles. Next slide. Again, another example of hydrometeorology monitoring stations. Next slide. Camera and monitoring center. Again, we're using this to improve our citizen security programs. Next slide. Our ministry's strategic plan is to build climate resiliency for the urban sector through the use of technology, climate-friendly infrastructure, enhanced planning framework, and capacity building for towns and cities. And we also want to focus on the application of innovation and technology for municipal management and administration. Next slide. And I want to take this opportunity to say that we are very grateful for the invitation to be here, and I certainly want to thank each and every leader who's present here, all the delegates. I know that it is a very huge task that is ahead of us, but certainly as we work together and we bring, our strategies and solutions, we can make the world a better place as we all work towards moving towards, net zero cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister Requena, for joining us this afternoon. Moving on, we would like to welcome Vice Mayor Volodymyr Bondarenko, Kyiv, Ukraine.
Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I thank you for the opportunity to speak at this summit. Today, our civilized country helped Ukraine to fight evil. Thank you for this support. And I would ask to show the video so that we can all see a smart Kyiv during the war. Video, please. Please, one more.
不好意思，没有声音。
Europe's first largest country, Ukraine, is a center of bravery. In February, the lives of Ukrainians changed forever. Kyiv, as the capital, met the war face to face and gave a worthy rebuff to the enemy. It's impossible without free access to information. We added the service of connecting Wi-Fi in bomb shelters. Kyiv's digital app is transforming into a life-saving war information tool, united the main city services and adapted them to the conditions of martial law, reporting the destruction of infrastructure facilities. Useful maps for citizens have been created and updated. Ukrainians can find the schedule of evacuation runs and get psychological help. Even after the invasion, we are still strong. In the application, you can find about 3,000 stops, track public transport routes, and purchase a QR ticket for fair payment, as well as cashless payment system in parking. Local e-petitions have boosted e-democracy processes in Kyiv, tracking local moods and needs of society. The air quality monitoring system helps control the presence of pollutants that contributes to better environmental conditions for human habitation. resilience through digitalization.
However, I will continue my speech in Ukrainian. І хоча Київ насправді не може ще планувати спокійно до 2025 року чи до 2050 у зв'язку з російською агресією, ми не стоїмо на місці.
So I will continue in Ukrainian. And although due to the full-scale Russian aggression, it is impossible to make plans at full capacity for 2025 and 2050, we are not standing still.
Якщо говорити про розумні будівлі, то модернізація існуючих будівель з використанням енергоефективних і розумних технологій дозволяє подолати один з викликів війни, оскільки в минулого року в нас виникла потреба уникнути наслідків російських атак. Відтак, модернізація включає на сьогодні і розумне освітлення, системи опалення, охолодження, системи керування енергією.
Since last year, we are facing a new challenge of avoiding the negative consequences of missile attacks from Russia on Kiev. And that's why we are implementing the new solutions for the smart buildings. In Kiev, at particular objects, it includes new energy-saving and smart technologies like smart lighting.
Розумні системи навіть сьогодні використані в Києві для системи вдосконалення громадського транспорту, зокрема моніторингу руху в реальному часі. Ми стимулюємо і заохочуємо зарядну інфраструктуру для електромобілів та керування нею за допомогою розумних технологій.
For the smart transportation in Kiev, we are already implementing the smart technologies to improve public transport systems, such as real-time traffic monitoring and dynamic traffic routing. We incentivize and encourage the installation and management of electric vehicle charging infrastructure with the help of smart technologies.
Звичайно, що в рамках, у тому числі екологічного транспорту, ми намагаємося в подальшому розширяти мережу саме трамваїв та тролейбусів. До війни нам вдалося зробити 40% існуючих маршрутів саме екологічними.
Also, we are trying to expand gradually the network of routes for trams and trolleybuses. Before the full-scale war, we were able to implement this and reach the 40% coverage.
Завдяки сьогоденню в Києві стають популярні і відновлювальні джерела енергії, але насправді головний наш виклик – це зараз розумні мережі, оскільки нам вдалося уникнути блекауту, в тому числі і завдяки керування мережами і керування споживанням електричної енергії.
Also, renewable energy is another development strategy for us, and despite all the challenges, currently alternative energy sources are gaining popularity in Ukraine, and we were already able to avoid the full blackout in Kiev due to the shelling.
Проте я переконаний, що тільки технології не зможуть вирішити проблеми клімату. Для цього необхідні, перш за все, зміна політики та поведінки споживачів, новий суспільний діалог, новий суспільний договір.
However, I am concerned, and I'm sure that it is important to know that technology alone cannot solve the problem of climate change. It must be combined with changes in policy and consumer behavior in creating a new dialogue with the society.
Але впевнений, що усі цивілізовані країни зможуть це зробити у перспективі 2050 року.
And I'm sure that all civilized countries together will be able to achieve this goal in the perspective of 2050.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Bondarenko. And now I would like to welcome Taiwan's representative, Chongping Luan, Chief Secretary, Architecture and Building Research Institute, Ministry of Interior, Taiwan.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is my pleasure to introduce the policy of the net zero building in Taiwan. Next one, please. And one more, please. In response to climate change and global warming, most countries around the world has declared to achieve the net zero emission target by 2050. Next one, please. And on March 30, 2022, our National Development Council declared Taiwan pathway to net zero emission in 2050. For building, we focus on improving the exterior design, energy efficiency, and the appliance energy efficiency standard. Meanwhile, we plan the target in 2030, new public building energy efficiency class 1 and nearly zero or nearly zero emission. In 2040, 50% of existing buildings are upgraded to energy efficiency class 1 or nearly zero emission. In 2050, 100% of new buildings and over 85% of existing buildings are nearly zero emission. Next one, please. About the pathway to the net zero building plan idea, refer to global trend, Taiwan pathway to net zero building combined the near zero carbon building pathway at 50% energy saving and the 50% renewable energy pathway. To combine these two pathways, we created the net zero building pathway toward the ultimate global of the carbon neutral net zero building by 2050. Next one, please. And this is for promotion, we planned about 4 priority and the measures. The first one, enhance the energy efficiency of a new building. The second, improve the energy efficiency of existing building. The third, improving the energy efficiency of home appliance. And finally, the next one, please. Finally, we want to introduce the innovative energy saving technology and the construction method. About the energy savings technology for building, maybe we suggest the beams or hems, smart meter, power charge in parking space will be employed, we suggest. We also study the R&D and the low carbon construction method, including the precast wood and the bamboo structure, a circular building economy, and so on. Next one, please. Regarding the plan principle, the first one, we like to promotion the sequence, public sector first, private follow. The second, for a new building, encourage first, mandatory later. The third, for the existing building, public sector mandatory by stage, and the private sector manually encourage. Finally, the strengthen inter-ministerial cooperation. Next one, please. And we also have established the building energy efficiency rating system, BERS, to evaluate the energy efficiency of building. Moreover, many administrative measures were employed to support this system, including the direction revision and the evaluation manual publication applied joining with our existing EEWH, that is a green building labeling system. Next one, please. And this BERS rating, we created a rating of 1 plus to 7, and with 1 plus being the highest rating. This is a system for your reference. Next one, please. In the future, we will continually to communication with the industrial and the professional training, and develop the professional task force. And the BERS trial run in 2022 simulates alignment with the industrial. And we like to promote building in energy efficiency by state by years. And we look forward to achieving the zero emission by 2050. Next one, please. And I want to show this is our ultimate goal and the big challenge. The 100% of new building and over 85% of existing building are nearly zero carbon by 2050. And we like to say we will continually struggle to increase the low carbon transition. Okay, this is my presentation. Thanks for your attention.
And thank you, Mr. Luan, for your brief presentation. We will now open the floor for discussion and Q&A. I will now turn the program over to Tzu-Lun Alan Lin, Deputy Executive Director of the Office of Energy and Carbon Reduction, who will be moderating the panel discussion, the following Q&A session.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the wonderful presentation from the city leader in the panel. So I know we all run out of time, but I still like to probably open a few open the floor for a few questions, because I think it is rare opportunity, so lots of city leaders to share the wonderful experience here. So I would like to invite some comments or want to add some views or for a couple, because we all almost run out of time. I know we all know that it's a long afternoon. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, this should be okay. I will ask the organizer, probably put somewhere for the some of the storage for share the presentation. Yeah, there will be a wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll ask the organizer if all the leader here are allowed. That will be great. I think there are lots of heavy information over there. I think it's very it's wonderful to share the slide. Yeah, if you all allow to share. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah. Question or comments? Yeah, please.
Thank you. This might be a question for the last speaker. I was just wondering, with regard to net zero emission buildings and the goals for zero emission in new buildings, will the assessment be about being energy efficient and not producing more carbon into the future? Or will it also have an assessment of the building materials that were manufactured, where they were transported from? That's a much more complex equation. So would a zero building have to have an equation which showed the development of all the building materials and so forth, and where they've been imported or exported and transported around the world? Or would it be more about the building once it's constructed going forward? Does that make sense?
Direct the last speaker, right? I mean,
yes.
Yeah, please.
Well, I will explain. Actually, we want to improve the exterior building of envelope to reduce the down please. We want to all the building we focus on the building the exterior design and reduce about 50% energy efficiency, and then the other remainder energy, the remainder 50 energy, we will use the renewable energy for do this one to combine together and to achieve the net zero the building, we think. Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions or comments, or you want to share your view? This is a rare opportunity. We can just a few minutes probably. No? So probably I close the section because we all know the city are like all the speakers said, the city are the forefront to address the climate change challenge, but no single city or country can do it alone. But I believe with the smart city leaders in this room, and also smart people, and within this smart and net zero summit, we can work together to address this net zero goal. So I would like to close the session. Thank you for joining the summit, and also enjoy your time and stay in Taiwan. Thank you. So may I propose, I think, as the mayor suggests, well, probably after we close the session, we in the stage, we have a group photo for the city mayor. Yeah. Okay. I turn the microphone back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Lane, for chairing the panel discussion. With that, dear city delegates, city leaders, and ladies and gentlemen, we conclude the Net Zero City Leaders Summit. Before we draw this meeting to the very end, I would like to remind you that our welcome reception, Smart City Tonight, will take place this evening in downtown Taipei. The reception will feature Taiwanese food, arts and crafts, and traditional music performances to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Smart City Expo. So the event is only open to invited guests with VIP badges. We cordially invite those of you with VIP badges to please join us tonight. Shuttle buses will be leaving from the first floor of this exhibition hall immediately after the summit. So please do join us. With that, we conclude the 2023 Net Zero City Leader Summit. 各位长官、贵宾，我们今日的近邻城市国际峰会到此圆满落幕。We wish you a fruitful participation in the 2023 Smart City Expo and a very pleasant stay here in Taiwan. Thank you and have a great evening. 好。那我们也请我们的贵宾能够到台前来。Mr. Lin just proposed that we have a group photo shoot on stage. So, city delegates and city leaders, would you please come forward and join us in group photo shooting? So this includes all the city leaders, mayors and vice mayors, ministers, city delegates who spoke in the afternoon's panel discussion 1 and 2, and also those of you who are in attendance today, please, would you do us the honor of joining the photo shooting session? Please come forward and join us in group photo shooting. 我们在场的贵宾，我们也可以请我们工作人员来协助引导一下。我们现在要拍一张我们的城市首长高峰会的最后的大合照。Please do join us. 好，我们也请我们工作人员将我们台上的讲台先帮我们来撤到我们的先到我们的舞台的后方。那我们也请我们现场的人员、工作人员来协助我们引导一下，将我们的贵宾引导到我们的台上。我们现在邀请的是我们今天下午有发言的城市的代表，还有我们现场所有的城市的首长跟代表，都欢迎您可以一同来参加。So, dear city delegates and city leaders, please come forward and go on stage and join us in group photo shooting. 那我们也请现场的工作人员，还有我们的摄影朋友们、媒体朋友们，能够把握机会，捕捉珍贵的画面。Okay. So please bear with us. We're still trying to get more city delegates to go on stage. You can remove your facial mask if you're still wearing one. It is okay to remove your mask during group photo shoots. All right. So please look towards the cameras right in front of you. 我们请大家望向前方。Say cheese. Okay. Please look towards the camera slightly to your right, because we have a lot of photographers wanting to take photos. Please look towards the camera slightly to your right. So your colleagues and our cameraman slightly to your right will have a chance to take your photos. Okay, and then please look towards our official cameraman right directly in front of you. 望向前方. Please look towards our cameras. They're in front of you. Okay, and next. Okay, now this gentleman right here, he's the official photographer of the summit. So please, he's going to take a dynamic photo of everyone in attendance. So please look towards his camera. 要再回来一次吗 Okay, one more time. Okay, say cheese. OK 了吗 ？OK， 那我们还有这边的，once again, we would like to get the cameraman over here a few photos. Please look towards the camera to your left. All right, with that, we conclude the photo shooting. I suppose that's it for the photo shooting for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do join us, especially for those invited guests with VIP badges. Please do join us in our Smart City Tonight welcome reception.